based business in the technology sector. As a small management team, we decided not to allocate individual roles. We made group decisions to discuss investments and pull together all of our ideas.
An innovative product portfolio to differentiate us from our competitors. Furthermore, as an organisation grows, it benefits from economies of scope, where unit costs fall due to R&D that widens their product portfolio, sharing the overall production costs over an increased number of goods. Our concentration on R&D investment provided competitive differentiation, reduced unit costs and improved product quality. We combine this with issuing shares to employees to encourage innovative knowledge into the business through R&D investment. Our timing of investment was poorly managed. Although as firms increase in size, the risk of R&D investment decreases, smaller firms can use their R&D investment more efficiently. Cooper argues that smaller firms are more aware of dynamic customer needs and have greater average technical ability in employees, therefore are more effective at utilising investment resources for innovative improvements. Whilst our growth sustained increased R&D investment, this didn't necessarily lead to a comparative increase in benefit. Additionally, cash flow issues and demand fluctuations made it difficult to sustain an R&D focus. Nonetheless, this investment approach was dependent on our current profitability, cash flow, growth and R&D intensity, providing flexibility to our competitive strategy. Simply throwing money at R&D is ineffective. The organisational culture, firm size, strategic flexibility and underlying innovative fertility of an industry are crucial to an R&D investment strategy which achieves innovation.
Though our main investment focus throughout the game was R&D, due to the technological industry our business is based in, it can also be seen that we constantly invested in marketing alongside R&D, however to a lesser extent. Our decision to do this was backed up as it is thought that to succeed in today's marketplace, corporations must engender cooperation between the marketing and R&D functions. We looked at marketing as a way to assist R&D, as often by improving knowledge in marketing, one should be able to make R&D's role more effective. On the contrary, we are not convinced that this was always the best move. Through research it came to our attention that it's not always beneficial to invest in R&D and marketing together. Other views suggest both advertising and R&D are strong methods of establishing intangible assets, yet they are rarely used in tandem. It is more common to use one or other to establish differentiation. By focusing on them separately, we would have been able to use them more effectively. Throughout the game, we were always conscious of selling our shares as we didn't want to lose too much control of the business. Almost all the shares we sold were to our employees. These shares were sold at 4 different intervals throughout the game. This approach was based on John Lewis's business structure. John Lewis has a very unusual structure. It is 100% owned by its employees. It is known as an employee-owned business. John Lewis believes that one way to success is through worthwhile and satisfying employment, and achieves this through the happiness of all its members. We believe that we would be able to keep our employees motivated continuously through selling shares, as it meant they had a vested interest in the overall success and profitability of the business. Research has shown that at least 50% of employees are motivated solely by this structure in John Lewis, and for this reason we are fairly confident that it was the most effective way to keep our employees motivated.
Current ratio analysis shows how easily we were able to pay our short-term obligations. Our ratio consistently above 1 suggests an ability to pay our short-term debt with short-term finance. This is reinforced by a reduction in our average days to sell inventory. Therefore, we converted inventory into cash quicker. Nonetheless, our current ratio is far too high, highlighting the opportunity cost of not utilising our financial resources for investment in growth. A decrease in inventory turnover and increase in average days to sell inventory also suggest under-investments in marketing to sustain demand. Our acid test ratio figures infer that we were not reliant on our stock for liquidity, which is necessary as we are a start-up and demand can change very quickly. High ownership of equity, though only selling 5,000 shares, also provided a safety net of possibly quick cash through sale of shares and maintained ownership of the company. However, although this risk-averse approach maintained liquidity and ownership, it arguably reduced our financial resources, which could have been invested in growth. Throughout the game, our cash management decision involved a balance of the opportunity cost of investing money with maintaining liquidity. Whilst Falconer states that holding cash has no benefits, he also says there are no costs to holding cash either. As a start-up company, due to external funding and demand unpredictability issues, makes cash crucial to success. The error and view lab lists the 3 main benefits of holding on to cash. It reduces the likelihood of financial distress, allows the pursuance of investment policy when financial constraints are met, and minimises the cost of raising external funds or liquidating existing assets. Whilst we could have spent more cash on R&D and marketing, we felt that the lack of knowledge about demand presented a considerable risk to investment.
Turnover consistently above 1 suggests we received greater income than the capital we invested in assets, However, greater numbers would further justify our investment. Although our return on assets figures also suggest poor asset utilisation, we anticipate this as a startup and would expect this to improve as the firm matures through analysis of intricate process design to guide efficient asset utilisation. Manage capacity when demand is unpredictable, while our incremental investment gradually established economies of scale through production growth. This reduces unit costs, which allowed us to maintain both profitable and competitive. We also only invested in PP when demand wasn't met, preventing cash being tied up in the idle capacity. This minimised the cost of inefficient capacity by avoiding overcommitment in idle assets. Nonetheless, this led to periods of lost demand which strengthened our competitors. Our focus on R&D and risk-averse cash flow management also starved our capacity growth of demand for marketing investment. A more coordinated investment strategy that combined focus on operating efficiency, better use of debt and sales generation would have improved our return on equity.
Market share improves the firm's reputation and market position. This improves profitability through economies of scale. As a result, market share represents a key measure of business performance. We achieve this through R&D investment that establishes high-quality products. As market share increased, we experienced increased profitability as net income increased from 15,621 in quarter 1 to 55,465 in quarter 8, correlated to a market share increase of 0 to 41%. However, our investment expenses were not proportional to the relative increase in profitability, regardless of market share growth, reducing the net profit margin. Across the 8 quarters, the net profit margin decreased from 43.16% to 16.59%, whilst return on capital employed decreased from 75% to 18%. Therefore, although we achieved a strong market share and net income improvement, our profitability and return on investment decreased. On reflection, we would apply tighter cost control whilst revenue increased to maintain profitability. 41% suggests we operated as a legal monopoly, causing a lack of competition, and therefore performance of the industry as a whole is lacking. Unexpected demand fluctuations led to periods of lost demand through insufficient capacity. Therefore, we matched the demand growth with capacity investment. However, this reactive approach to growth through meeting demand with capacity still caused periods of excess demand. A more proactive approach to investment would have reduced excess demand and improved profitability.
Core components to derive our DuPont were net profit margin, total asset turnover and leverage multiplier. Our net profit margin started at 43% but fell to 16%, suggesting a reduction in profitability. Whilst R&D investment reduced costs, poor profitability was likely due to insufficient revenue from sales because of low marketing investment. An average asset figure reduced the bias from the balance sheet snapshot view. Total asset turnover consistently above 1 shows profitable revenue on our investment in the business assets, but a greater number is preferred, which we didn't achieve due to a lack of debt financing. Our leverage multiplier shows we are unreliant on debt financing. This maintained control of the profit we generated, but also reduced our pool of financial resources to improve growth. We increased return on equity almost purely through operating activities rather than debt capital, underpinning our risk-averse financial strategy, however arguably prevented potential growth. We also prepared a 5-step model of DuPont analysis, however we believe the 3-step model to be more accurate as we had no interest or tax expenses. Our return on shareholders' funds further shows the benefit from maintaining control over equity as it increased over time relative to return on capital employed, increasing our financial benefit from investment. Our return on assets decreased over time, suggesting inefficiency in the assets we invested in to improve profitability and growth. Our gearing was consistently low since we only gave away 5,000 shares to raise funds, providing control over our equity, however led to insufficient investment to improve growth. Selling more shares would have provided capital for further investment in marketing and R&D to reduce costs and increase demand, improving our overall performance in the game.